13 and 14 were all about the unit circle. Remember that any coordinate on the unit circle, any x comma y, can be represented trigonometrically as the cosine of the angle of rotation, comma the sine of the angle of rotation. You know, we talked about the unit circle, the geometric diagram, which I can go over in class with you if you want to see it, that if you were looking at a unit circle here, and I'll just draw it briefly here. If this was your circle, this is your unit circle, and this here is your ray, you drop a perpendicular right here. This is your x comma y right here. And this right here is your angle of rotation. So this piece right here is your x value. That's your cosine. This piece right here, that's your y value, and that's your sine. So if they want to talk about the geometry of a unit circle, you always look at the triangle within the circle, having that point where you drop the perpendicular. Horizontal is cosine, y is sine. So with number 13, I asked you, given an angle of rotation of 315, to find cosine, sine, and tangent. And I really should have phrased it differently. I should have said find x, y, and tangent. And I didn't. So I'm going to tell you that it probably would have been said find x. And you had to know that x means cosine. So cosine of 315, we're going to do the exact thing that we did. SFR. 315 is in the fourth quadrant. That's where the sine is positive. The cosine function is cosine. 315, because you do 360 minus 315 to get 45. So radical 2 over 2 represents the cosine of 315, or x. If they ask you for sine, sine means y. I was probably better off asking you to find the sine, right? Or to find y. That's how it probably is more likely to be phrased. In a unit circle, find y. So you have to know to do the sine of 315. Sine of 315, 315 terminates in the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, the sine is negative, the function is sine, the reference angle is 45. Okay, minus the sine of 45 is negative radical 2 over 2. So y is negative radical 2 over 2. Tangent is just sine divided by cosine. You could do it this way. You could have just done the tangent of 315, which is fourth quadrant negative, tangent radical tangent 45, it's negative 1, or you could have expressed it as a quotient. So that's, again, they probably would have asked you find x, and that has to be cosine, find y, and that has to be sine. For number 14, they gave you the coordinate and they want you to find the angle of rotation. Well, you know that the angle of rotation has to be in the third quadrant, because this coordinate is represented by negative comma negative. And if I graph the coordinate negative comma negative, it has to be over here, negative comma negative. So I know my angle is going to be in between 180 and 270 degrees. I just have to figure out the reference angle. This is my reference angle right here. Once I figure out that reference angle, I can add 180 to it and I got my angle. Now you see the answer right there because I did it already. To find the reference angle, you have a choice. You could either do second cos, radical 3 over 2, or second sine 1/2. It still would have given you in both instances 30. And this is the time that I don't put the negative in. Only when I'm looking for a reference angle. Only. Otherwise, when I'm doing arc or inverse and there's a negative there, I use the negative. So I do 180 plus 30, and I get my angle of rotation, my theta, is 210 degrees. To check it, do the cosine of 30, and it will give you negative 0.8660, which is negative radical 3 over 2. The sine of 210, I said cosine of 330, I mean cosine of 210, and sine of 210, and you get negative 0.5, which is negative 1/2.